Okay, so the very last page of our review, I instead of having you build a whole bunch of triangles, I just decided to have you build two, and we're just going to kind of go back and forth between those two. So I thought about making this video the whole thing, but I just don't have quite enough time right now to do that. So I'm just going to go ahead and do maybe the first half, and then I'll do the second half in another one. That'll probably make it easier for people to find anyway. So anyway, let's see what we've got here. So the first thing that we know in this problem is that I'm telling you to draw an angle between negative pi over 2 and 0. So draw that down in the fourth quadrant. And please notice that it's a negative angle. It's not rotating around the circle into the fourth quadrant. It's rotating down. So this slightly negative angle. And the cosecant is the hypotenuse divided by the opposite. And notice that's negative, and that makes sense. It's down. Remember, the cosecant is the reciprocal of the sine. Now, if you do the Pythagorean theorem on this and you say something like a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and you're very, very careful, you'll find out that that number is 9. And I have to decide between positive and negative. But since it's going to the right, I know that that number must be, in fact, positive. So I now have my alpha triangle. We'll take a look at our beta triangle over here. Now, my beta triangle is somewhere between 0 and pi. Now, 0 is here and pi is here. So they're basically saying draw it somewhere between the first and the second quadrant, but it doesn't specify. But the fact that the tangent is negative means it must be in the second quadrant. And the definition of tangent is opposite over adjacent. But because it's going to the left, that 1 would have to be negative, which then makes it sense that that is what we have. And then again, Pythagorean theorem, 3 squared and negative 1 squared equals c squared. And so we're going to end up with root 10. Now, I hope you guys can do that fairly quickly. Now, this problem obviously is very, very easy. The sine of beta that's over here, that would be 3 over root 10, also known as 3 roots of 10 over 10. And the cosine, of course, is negative 1 over root 10 or negative root 10 over 10. I just decided to grab that since it was right there. Now, when we look at these two, they're just really the same thing. And I don't really know why I did it in that order. It really honestly doesn't make sense. I think I'm going to go with this one first. The sine of 2 alpha is 2 sine alpha cosine alpha. In fact, it's the only double angle formula we have for that. And so it says, go up here and find my alpha triangle and find the sine of it. And the sine is opposite over hypotenuse. And of course, the adjacent over hypotenuse is the cosine. Now, those are pretty big numbers, and so ones that I'm maybe not quite super happy about jumping into. But if I multiply those out, I end up getting negative 720 over 1681. I believe that's 41 squared. Let me double check that one real quick. Yeah, it's 1681. And so since I've got that answer right there, then I know that this answer up here is going to be negative 1681 over 720. Because remember, a cosecant is simply a reciprocal of a sine. Now, when we get on to our friend the tangent is a little bit of a bummer because we have 3 distinct identities that we can use for a half angle tangent. And I didn't write the third one down. It's the one with a plus and minus on it and a big fat square root that looks very much like these two. But I like this one right here. Now, if I'm going to do a tangent, the first thing that I do is I look at which ratio looks the easiest. And between them, you know, sines are going to be ugly. Cosines are going to be ugly. So in other words, this thing's going to be ugly no matter what I do. So what I personally would choose is to pick the one that has the easiest denominator. And believe it or not, a single value is a little bit easier than the one that has this 1 in it. But I asked you the question above for a very specified reason, excuse me. If I want to do this, I'm just going to grab this number. I'm going to subtract the cosine. So that's plus root 10 over 10. And the sine, of course, is 3 roots of 10 over 10 with a, actually that's a positive. That's kind of nice. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply everybody by 10, top and bottom. And so we're getting a little bit closer. That looks quite a lot better than what we had before, but I still have a problem of having a root in the bottom. So we're going to do one last step, which is to multiply by root 10, and I'd get 10 roots of 10. I don't know why I wrote 20. 10 roots of 10 plus 10 over 3 times 10, which is 30. We're getting better and better and better, but we have one last thing to do. Notice that after doing all these 10s that we've done, everybody magically has a 10 in it. So if we divide that out, dividing everybody by 10, I'd get root 10 plus 1 over 3. Now, again, everybody has their own way of doing this, but this is what I like to do if I can. I know beta is in the second quadrant, right? And so inverses on the sine and the tangent, believe them to be in 1 and 4. And that's not what I have, but I know that inverses work in 1 and 2 for a cosine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an inverse cosine. Now, I want to double check because I like radians better, but I'm going to do an inverse cosine of -1 over the square root of 10. And my calculator will totally understand that my number here is actually in the second quadrant. And so when I hit enter, it's going to understand that that is the value of beta. So now I could check that, because if I said, hey, calculator, what is the tangent of beta? It should be, let me try that again. Let's quit that. The tangent of beta, let's see if I did that right. According to this, if I've done that right, the tangent of beta should be, in fact, -3. So I'm pretty sure I got beta correct, okay? And I know that it's in the second quadrant because cosine's in 1 or 2, and I did that correctly. Now, what I want to do is I want to find out, calculator, what is the tangent of beta? Let's see, alpha b divided by 2. Now, it's going to know what beta was because I stored it. It divided it by 2. Now, this is going to be an ugly number, but hopefully it's an ugly number that coincides with this one right here that I have down here a little lower. There we go. And so I believe that answer to be the square root of 10 plus 1 divided by 3. And we did all right. Okay, so we will do one other video for the last 4 in a few moments, and as soon as I have enough time. All right, I will see you guys back in class. Hopefully that was helpful. All right, have a good one. Bye-bye.